back to the Christian channel. Claire McCallan here. I am blessed to be with Kelly and Brian Estes from the film God Bless Bitcoin. Brian and Kelly, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the simplest question, but also maybe the hardest. I fear that some of our viewers might be like me. Bad at math, bad at money, not super logic minded. What is the most simplified way you can explain Bitcoin to someone who's had it explained to them a bunch of times, like myself, and every time you're like, yeah, I think I get it. I need you guys. You're the pros. You made the movie. What's the simplest way that someone can understand Bitcoin?
The best way to think about this is, let's go back to what Bitcoin fixes. So if we go back to when the internet started in 1994, we built the internet incorrectly. So the internet's supposed to be a peer-to-peer system. So when we send email to each other, we're sending data to each other peer-to-peer, right? But no one could figure out how to send money peer-to-peer back then. And so we built the internet on top of the banking and credit card system, but it wasn't supposed to be like that. We're not supposed to have to use a Visa or a bank or a PayPal to move money. I should just be able to send you money. But the problem with doing that is that it's called the double spend problem. If I send you money, then I could also copy and paste that money and send it to Kelly. So now I've spent the same dollar twice. And so what Bitcoin is, it solved that problem. It was a problem for 30 years and no one knew how to fix it. And so we don't know who solved the problem. They go by the name Satoshi Nakamoto, but someone figured out, here's the solution to the problem we've been trying to fix for 30 years. I might give it to you for free. I'm not going to start a company with it. I'm not going to patent it. I'm just going to put it on the internet, and it's going to be a gift to the world. And that's how Bitcoin started. Bitcoin was the first blockchain, and it was a gift. Someone figured out the solution and just gave it to us. And what this gift does, it allows us to do peer-to-peer transactions through the internet without having the permission of a bank or a PayPal or a third party to block that transaction.
Wow. So this anonymous man is a little bit of a Robin Hood character, huh?
Yeah, well, it could be a group of people or it could be a woman. We just don't know.
That's true. Good point. Good catch. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, immediately before I even watched the film, which I did, by the way, and you were the first people to even get close to helping me understand these things. Wait till my dad hears that I finally get it even a little bit. He's going to be so excited.
That was the point, so thank you.
Yes, well, you illustrated it, and very much just how you did it, Brian. You do it by storytelling, which can help so much, because otherwise, if you're just throwing numbers and statistics and some of these confusing acronyms and names at people who don't otherwise have context for it, they can get a little bit lost in the process. And I do agree with you. I think that there are maybe some institutions and systems that benefit from the confusion and from the lack of education for the average person. So I'm grateful there are people like you figuring it out and then getting a version to people like me. The name right off the bat is really interesting for me as a Christian. And it's interesting. It challenges the viewer. God bless Bitcoin. What does God have to do with this?
Okay, so I'm the person who named the film. So let me tell you my thought process. First of all, we really wanted to look at finding a more moral and ethical form of money. We believe that our current fiat system around the globe favors the elite over the wage earner, because the current system prints money. It has nothing to back it. So every time money is printed, it takes our purchasing power away from us, right? So if you have $100 and if they print 40% more, then you only have $60 to use to buy. 40% of your money is up in smoke. And so we don't believe that that's moral. We believe that that's, it's just not ethical. So we wanted to look at a more ethical form of money, and the best place to decide what is ethical and moral is the sacred scriptures. Right. So for me, that's the Bible, because we are Christian. But there are many other religions around the world, and Bitcoin is for everybody. It's open source. It's not just for Christians. So let's look at what all of the sacred texts say about how we are to interact with each other with money. And so we explored those. We brought in experts to talk about what their sacred texts say. And the reason I decided, or we decided to call it God Bless Bitcoin, was because our money is broken. And we are saying to God, we believe from everything that we know from our own upbringing as Christians and from what we're learning, that you want abundance for your people. You want us to be able to treat each other fairly, to compensate each other for the talents that you have given us fairly. Our money isn't doing this, but there is this new form of money called Bitcoin. If this is the way for all of us to interact in the way that you created us to, please bless it. Let us adapt it. Let us find ways to serve each other better. And so really it's almost like a little prayer. Hey, God, can you help us? Help us. If this is the way, help us out of this mess that we're in right now. And
Yeah.
so that's where it comes from.
That's beautiful. And I really did enjoy, and I think it'll speak to a lot of people, that you included world religion leaders, people from all different perspectives. Obviously, we're right here with you taking it from a Christian perspective. It's so great to see you take sacred text from the Bible and apply it to this. But it also is really interesting to see how this applies not just to people of other religions, but people from all over the world. And that's part of what the film addressed, was the equity aspect of this and how other forms of spending, that you're dealing with different types of discrimination about where you're coming from, what sort of monetary tool you're using. So this really is a great equalizer. And I think that brings in the God aspect of it as well, because God sees us all as equal and we're all equal under this system as well. The other thing that really struck me with, and you at any point you can be like, uh-oh, Claire, you missed it, because again, it's going to take me a couple watches.
You're doing well. You're doing very well. Yes.
I took every accounting class I had to take in college. I'm not making this up. I had to take twice just to pass.
So
I am the perfect testing audience.
You're talking to an English teacher by trade, so I feel you.
Perfect. Well, part of what struck me, though, was the way that this allows for the dignity of the human person in a way that big government and large institutions often don't. They can be very patronizing, and they say, oh, you need us. Oh, you're not smart enough or responsible enough to handle this on your own. So what do you think? Do you think the average person can handle Bitcoin? Because I think I've heard about it for a long time and I've thought that is not for me. I think I'm a very smart girl. I'm a very talented writer, but I look at Bitcoin and I've always thought, I don't know, am I capable of that? Do you think the average person can handle this?
It does take some personal responsibility.
Mhm.
So let me explain this. So we address this in the movie. Bitcoin is what's called a bearer instrument. And so what that means is whoever holds it owns it. So it's like cash. So if you lose your purse and your cash is in your purse, you've lost your money, right? It's the same thing with Bitcoin. If you mismanage your Bitcoin wallet and you don't keep your private keys secure, then your Bitcoin could disappear. So it does take personal responsibility to safe keep your Bitcoin. You could also keep your Bitcoin at a custodian. So there are Bitcoin banks out there that will custody your Bitcoin. So if you forget your password, you could go and get a new password, right? So there are different levels of responsibility. So if you want to take it to the, you want to hold your private keys, you could do that. But if you want to delegate that to a custodian like Coinbase or River Financial or Swan Bitcoin, they'll custody your private keys for you. And then you just use like a username and password to access your account. So there are different levels depending on how comfortable you are.
Okay. And also, I think that this is really just opening up the door to understanding Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So we give a macro view of what Bitcoin is in a very simple way to make it digestible so people can say, I'm curious about that. I mean, you always should educate yourself, right? Before you do anything, any kind of venture, monetary, in your relationships, whatever, always educate yourself, always be armed with power and knowledge. So there is a great website called hope.com, and it has all sorts of resources. It's dedicated solely to resources on educating people about Bitcoin.
I think this is going to be really interesting for a lot of people because, I think what resonated for me will resonate with everyone at home who's watching this. You speak a little bit about inflation. And I don't even know how recently you made the film, but obviously the experience of buying groceries gets worse pretty much every week for most Americans right now. It's just getting so unmanageable. And I found the section where you spoke about the difference between true inflation and you broke down cost and demand versus what was it? It was a devaluation of money. Was that correct?
Yeah, exactly. That's
One-
what's-
I watched it. I love the movie, guys. I really did.
Yeah. That's the
I am
most
not-
important
That's
part.
the most important part is people blame
No.
themselves.
Yes.
What's going on? I am working 2 jobs and I can't pay rent, much less even think about taking on a mortgage. I have a college
having
degree.
kids.
Yeah. I have a college degree and I can't even pay my rent. I did everything right. What's wrong with me? I want to start a family. I can't. It's not your fault, right? It is the system under which you live and that under which we operate that is causing the problems by devaluing the money. And I know that was a huge point you wanted to make in the movie.
Because no one understands. Like I have my undergraduate degree in economics and finance.
Mhm.
I went to University of Cambridge for my study abroad, London School of Economics. I have my MBA from WashU, and I didn't understand the system until about 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
You know, like, and the government doesn't teach us how money works, and they may do that on purpose or it may be on accident. But one of the primary goals of the movie, and that's why we spend the first 20 minutes, is explain this is how the system works.
Mhm.
And if you think this is just and moral, then that's fine. If you think there could be a better system, you have the choice to opt out of it. You could opt out. It's a peaceful revolution. You could just opt out and join the new system, which which is called Bitcoin. Henry Ford, back in the 1920s or 30s, he has a famous quote. He said, if people understood the monetary system, there would be a rebellion the next day. And so he understood it. And now we're 100 years later and people are still to understand it. And here's another interesting fact we don't talk about much. We didn't talk about this in the movie, but Henry Ford and Thomas Edison 100 years ago wanted to buy the Muscle Shoals, Alabama power plant to start creating electric money so that we couldn't, use gold and money printing to conduct unjust wars. And the government wouldn't give them a permit to buy the power plant. But and that's what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin's just electric money. So Thomas Edison and Henry Ford had this idea 100 years ago. This isn't a new idea. It's just now it's decentralized, so the government can't stop it. So, and before 100 years ago, they could stop those 2 people from buying the power plant. Now they can't stop it. It's just because we have the internet. So we could decentralize it. So it's like whack-a-mole. The government can't go and shut it down.
Yeah, this pairs quite nicely. I went to an advanced screening of the new Reagan movie that Dennis Quaid stars in last night. And for anyone who watches here on the Christian channel, these 2 films dovetail quite nicely with some of their discussion about inflation.
Oh,
I
really?
just wanna-
Check out Reagan.
But yeah, it comes out, August 30th. We'll do a little cross promotion there. But one thing that you mentioned right now that you also mentioned in the film that I was like, oh my gosh, because I just turned 30. So a lot of my friends were starting to get married, have kids. And the part about how inflation and the rising cost of living and people's inability to keep up is affecting their decisions about whether or not they build families.
I know.
Sometimes people just need to hear that out loud. And I'm not going to put any words in your mouth, but for me, my immediate thought was, who wouldn't want us to have families? Why wouldn't someone want us to continue to build nuclear families and the building blocks of society? And for me, the center of all that is good and holy. And I think that in many ways, building a family and a community and a nuclear center like that is also an act of quiet, peaceful rebellion against larger systems.
You want to talk about that?
God tells us, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth. And it was probably a month and a half ago that I was in church and the sermon was about that verse. And it was why? Why are we supposed to have big families? Well, it goes with the mandate that we are to serve each other. Jesus left this world. And what did he say? Go make disciples among men, serve one another as serve each other. We are here to show God to each other. And there's no better way to do that than raising a family of believers who go out and make more believers. And exponentially, we grow the world in believers. And so to me, that fact that millennials, who are our largest, group right now, are the ones who have been most hurt by the printing of money. When our narrator, Natalie, said, we are the first generation who will not be better off than the one previous. That hits me. I mean, I have goosebumps right now. That bothers me so much because it influences every decision you make, and you live in a little bit of fear. And that's not the way we were meant to live. We were meant to live with hope and seeing a future and growing, always expanding, never contracting. And I think that our current finance system is preventing us from being able to do the things God wants us to do. And I think your generation is getting hurt the hardest by it.
I appreciate you guys just tackling hard topics, because I think a lot of times in church and ministry spaces, we can go for the softer skills and the flowery language. And sometimes we need to have these hard conversations and put our thinking caps out and bring out a calculator and talk about these things and learn some hard skills. And it really is a beautiful ministry to be equipping, especially millennials, Gen Z, with the economic literacy skills that they need in order to navigate this, that will directly transfer into their ability to evangelize, whether it be by building a family or growing their church community. So just before we close out here, I just want to go over one more time how people can watch the film and support the film, but any other resources you want to offer them. Like you mentioned, it was hope.com or .org?
.com.
.com.
Yep. Michael Saylor bought that 30 years ago and has dedicated and given for free all of these wonderful resources, from the most basic to the most complicated. He has a whole university there at Bitcoin U that you can go and read and study and learn for yourself, which is, as a teacher, that's what I always encourage.
Yeah, and so the movie comes out July 25th. We decided just a few weeks ago we're gonna make it free for anyone to watch. And the reason we did that is because the people that need to understand the information the most are the people who don't have the extra disposable $10 to buy or rent the movie. And so we just thought it was the right thing to do to make it free and let take that friction out so the most people could see the movie. Our goal is 1 billion people. So we dubbed it into 7 different languages. So Mandarin, Hindi, Portuguese, French, Italian. And so, we wanted it covers 85% of the natural spoken languages in the world. So our goal is to bring awareness and let people, it'll be on YouTube and X, initially. And then in a month or so, it'll be on Amazon Prime and Apple and, Tubi and Roku and any platform that doesn't require us to have an exclusive relationship with them. We're allowing, to be on there. It's also, if you go to our website, godblessbitcoin.com, you could also watch the movie, but you could download the movie from our website. So if you want to host a local viewing or a session or, share the movie, you could download the movie from our website for free.
This would be a great film for church groups to watch together.
Absolutely.
It's the type of thing, even just being able to process after watching it with you has even furthered my understanding. So it's the type of thing that you might want to watch and then communicate around.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much. This was such a treat. Brian and Kelly Estes with God Bless Bitcoin. Can't wait to watch. Thank you so much.